Hello and welcome back to the channel, fellow space nerds. After a long while, it's time for another fit-specific video showcasing the strength of one specific frigate. Today we are covering the one-shot wonder, the true king of alpha in faction warfare PvP, the Artillery Firetail. As the title already states, the Firetail shines at shooting a ridiculous amount of damage in one shot, as well as having the option to fit dual web due to its grade 3-4-3 slot layout, which, combined with its high base speed, gives it the option to outcontrol most other frigates in faction warfare PvP. Together with its high weapon range, this makes for a deadly combination, being able to sometimes alpha through the reps of even double rep ships due to its high damage per shot. The fit for today's video is quite simple and standard. Two 280 artilleries paired with a rocket launcher for some extra DPS, AB, dual web scram in the mid slots, and the pretty standard damage control gyro stab small angsel in the lows. The rigs are two T1 bulkheads paired with a T2 collision accelerator to even further increase the amount of damage per shot. The Firetail shines against most fits due to great control and great range, with the exception of dual web hook builds when piloted and fit well, as well as rare Comets that simply out-tank the Firetail. Sliding on Vigil fleets can be challenging at times if they are fit to deal damage to out to 18 kilometers. The first fight for today is already a pretty classic engagement for faction warfare, in that I'm fighting a Vigil fleet. Vigil fleets can abuse their web range bonus to load javelin rockets and outrange most other ships with it, while also keeping them web down, which is why I said sliding on these if they sit outside of web range can be challenging. But if you have flex control, your superior damage at scram kite range, so at around 9 to 10 kilometers for me, should win you the fight, which is also why I'm pulling to around 8.5 kilometers initially, hoping to keep the engagement right there where I outrange rage rockets, but still apply full damage myself. I was expecting a standard armor tank fit with hull buffer, but pretty early on realized that he's actually shield tank fit, which comes as a surprise to me as it is very non-standard. However, this also means that he has at most one web, making it incredibly easy for me to outcontrol him in this engagement. I still take a lot of damage, and as it turns out he had Navy rockets loaded, which I really didn't expect, and those still easily apply to the range I chose for the engagement initially. Luckily, my tank barely pulls through and allows me to win the fight. Engagement number 2 for today's video is against the Comet. Now, I did initially state that fights versus Comets can be very challenging, however that only really applies to rail Comets since they can reach the same range as the Artillery Firetail, but they output a lot more DPS and have significantly more tank than this fit. However, as you can see, the damage that I took quickly receded in this fight, meaning that this fight the Comet is most likely blaster fit. You can see that right about now I start taking damage again. This most likely means that the Comet did quickly switch to null to start applying damage even at the longer range while he's being outcontrolled. Also right about here he's gonna notice that he forgot to put drones on me, so these are coming in right about now. But even with all of this, you can see that he's already starting to bleed into hull, while I'm not even, well, right about now I am, but apart from that, easily tanking him. So I'm pulling a little bit more range right about here. After the engagement range has stabilized, he's barely applying any damage to me, and the thick alphas from the artillery cannons are slowly but surely taking him down. If you do ever end up facing a rail Comet as a Artillery Firetail, it's probably best to pull range, see if you can still outdamage him somehow, but if that's not the case, use your superior control to disengage the fight. Now the third fight for this video is where the crazy action really starts. I'm currently in the process of sliding onto a Tristan, a Tormentor, and an Incursus, who are currently hammering down on a fleetmate and Griffin Navy issue. The first target here is the Incursus, since he's brawly and can really hurt both of us. He's also dual rep, so it's very easy for me to break him with the insane alpha that the Firetail provides. Me and the Griffin both shoot him, so you can see already that he's breaking through his armor really quickly and gets alpha right about here. Second priority, of course, here is the Tormentor. Tormentors, as you might know already from our previous videos, tend to be really high DPS ships that have a lack of control as well as bad capacitor. So for us to take this down and take a lot of the damage off the grid is a high priority. So as per usually, I try to keep that range at around 8.5 to 10 kilometers. Reason being is I am hoping that he's pulse fit. Pulses cannot apply them max damage that far. If he's beam fit, well then I'm kind of flying right into his damage, but it also means I can apply my damage perfectly at this range, so it's really not the worst of trade-offs. So he dies pretty fast, and then the third ship, which is a Kaidi Tristan, makes the mistake of getting way too close to me here, so I have an easy time of grabbing a scram on him, and then it's just a matter of keeping at range 5 kilometers initially, then 7.5 later on once I realize my mistake, heating my guns, heating my rep, and hoping that my tank will last me through the kill. You can see that even though I have the wrong ammo type loaded, I'm currently shooting fusion into him. The alphas are still super thick, so I hit him for 1000 here, which is really insane for a frigate. And then soon after, I'm reaching a little bit of his hull buffer. I'm not sure if I am just tracking badly, but it takes 2 more shots, and then the fight is over. For the last clip of today's video, I decided to include one fight that really pushed the Firetail to its limit. Initially, I only slid on 1 Incursus here, but I knew that there was more in the backhand, that the Incursus is most likely bait. So initially the plan is pretty simple: get in range of my guns, get this guy down as fast as possible before his backup arrives. So I start applying my whips, my scram here, turn my ship around to not drift into his blaster range, keep him at range, apply max damage while spamming my D-scan to figure out what else is coming. You can see there's already an Atron on the horizon, but I expect a couple more ships to come, not just one. So here you can see there's another Incursus outside as well as a Slicer. The Slicer is really dangerous because if I don't catch it on the warp in, then he can pull range and really start butt blasting me, which is going to be a hell of a lot of pain. So plan number 1, kill the Incursus before everything else comes in, which is working perfectly well. Plan number 2 was to alpha this Atron off the grid before anything else really comes in, because Atrons have really low total HP, they're really control dependent. So here I decide to not shoot an initial shot, which was a big mistake. If I would have gotten an initial shot off here while he burns into me, it would have worked way better. I missed my shot here completely, shooting too early. Stop my guns, then use finally how you're supposed to use them when you have good transversal towards your enemy. Everything works out fine. But at this point I'm already pointed by the Slicer, the Incursus is pulling into me. I do not take my webs off here. What I should have done is take my webs off the Atron here and put them on the Incursus, but I'm at this point completely overwhelmed, getting shot by 3 people. The Atron finally dies, and now I decide to, instead of burning away from the Incursus, pull back into him, which makes me tank 2 or 3 more alphas, which are really unnecessary. I start really hammering this Incursus. The problem is that right about here I'm gonna start running out of my rockets, and you can see that I'm just barely breaking through the Incursus with my damage. I also overwrap a little bit, which is really tragic because I need every HP I can get here. Right here you can see now my rockets are running out, which means I'm lacking that tiny bit of damage to actually break through repairs. I also am completely out of heat since I used a lot of heat on the Atron and the Incursus initially, which means I can't, as previously before, start alphaing through the repairs, and he's perfectly tanking my damage. You can see that I also ran out of tank at this point, starting to align out, starting to pull range from the Incursus, trying to somehow get my ship out before I die. Unfortunately, the Slicer keeps me pointed until the end of the engagement, and I did go down eventually. It was a great fight though, so thank you for bringing it on, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did in the moment. And that was already it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate this kind of content, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to my channel for new uploads that are coming hopefully regularly if I can keep the schedule up. I have a lot of videos like this already out there. Check out my channel to maybe find some more that spike your interest. Bye bye!